Welcome to Living Out Loud with your host, Jess Phillips, where we talk all things addictions, codependency, relationships, and the good, bad, and ugly in between. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Living Out Loud with your host, Jess Phillips. I'm super excited to announce my Instagram friend, Meghann Alice, food addiction specialist and weight loss coach. Welcome, Meghann.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. I love this. And I interviewed somebody else that we've never met in person. And I did an interview with a guy that I started to follow on Instagram. And I sent him a message and I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to respond or agree to this. And I was like, hey, he was in like the recovery space. He owned recovery homes in like Malibu, California. And I was like, I love your story. I love what you do for work. I said, would you be interested in being interviewed? And he was like, hey, Jess, yeah, sure, no problem. And like, we still talk today. And I'm like, this is just so cool. So all to say, same thing happened with you. I don't even really know how I came across your profile, but I do remember it was during COVID. I was glued to my phone home alone, probably binge eating on
Who
sugar.
wasn't? Wasn't everyone?
Exactly. Binge eating and saw your videos and I was just like, wow, like this presence that you have about you, your honesty about your own story, and you were really speaking my language. So you talk a lot about food addiction and sugar addiction, and I was in no way going to do anything about it at the time, but I've always loved, listening to you and watching your growth too over the past couple of years has been super cool and inspiring. It's something that I look up to and I want to get more comfortable on camera and making reels. And I've watched you just get like just so much more confident. And I'm like, wow, like everybody just starts somewhere and they just keep practicing and keep showing up. So you and I have been trying to book this appointment for quite a long time now. So I'm super happy it's happening. So basically, welcome to Living Out Loud. This podcast is a podcast where I do solo episodes, but I also interview people who are somehow related to the wellness, therapy, addiction kind of world. And as I was mentioning to you earlier, I love to hear about people's approach to things because I really believe that no matter what either my clients or my listeners' issues are, we have to find something that works for us. And I just feel like coming from a judgment-free zone, just kind of like find something and stick with it. So all to say, interview all kinds of people. And I really want to kind of hear your story, kind of what got you into helping people with food addiction and weight loss. I know we've talked a little bit about kind of your personal ups and downs. So yeah, we'll start with that. What got you into the kind of coaching space that you're in right now?
Yeah. So I always have felt like I have had like a way with people. Like I feel like communication has always been my strong suit when it comes to helping other humans. So it's actually kind of funny, like even like 15, 20 years ago, I would jokingly say, maybe I'll be a life coach someday. I'm just like, I just felt like a natural with it. But I also had my very own struggles with many different things throughout my entire life. From, mental health, ADD, ADHD, OCD, anxiety, depression. I was medicated for many, many years. I actually, like, age 9 kind of started my entire journey. I guess we can start there. Age 9, I was a super obsessive compulsive child. My parents, just wanted the best for me. I was in and out of therapy, and they thought they were making the right choice for me by putting me on medication. So I was on meds for literally 17 years of my life. But at age 9, when I was medicated, I basically just like I grew up in a fog, a total zombie. And that's where I think my food issues started to stem from, where basically I just had this undying appetite. No food was ever enough. I could literally just eat ridiculous amounts of food, never feel full or satiated. And it just kind of started my disordered behaviors with food. But then it wasn't until age 24 until I kind of wanted to start discovering myself for who I was,
Yeah.
and decided to get off of these medications that I had just been a slave to my entire life. Like I grew up in a total brain fog. I think all of my mental health issues actually started to progressively get worse throughout the years. And it was just like one medication after the other. And I was like, what if these drugs are actually making me sicker and like making me more, just giving me worse mental health?
Yeah.
So found this book. It's called Anatomy of an Epidemic, and just basically how these drugs are affecting us.
Mm.
And I cold turkeyed off of these medications, which I suggest nobody ever does. I wish I had known better, but
Disclaimer.
yeah, totally, like never do it ever. So I went through about 5 years of psychiatric drug withdrawal. During this time, I achieved more than I ever had really in my entire life, just because big pharma, I was just so like, oh my gosh, like all of my life, I have not really been able to like thrive. And I think it was because the drugs were just like suppressing me. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to live and like discover who I was. So during this time, I did achieve more than I ever had in my life, but my eating disorder and disordered behaviors around food really, really started manifesting. Like I struggle with hardcore food addiction and bulimia. Not only was I making myself throw up,
Yeah.
but I was also binging and purging through the gym, working out constantly, like addicted to fitness.
Yeah.
Um,
So this was
so
when you had stopped. So from 9 to 24, you had remained medicated. And did you feel during that time that you had a disordered relationship with food as well, or only once you stopped?
yeah, so like I don't think I realized that I had issues with food
Right.
and exercise. Like I didn't really look at them as disordered at the
Right.
time
Yeah.
until I kind of like stepped out of that and I was like, oh, like that those aren't normal behaviors.
Yeah.
And I think the addiction, now that I'm in like such a good place and a healthy place now, I think the food addiction and the bulimic behaviors, they just got progressive and got really, really bad during the psychiatric drug withdrawal. I think
Okay.
just
Okay.
stress, trying to just kind of get my feet on the ground again.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the bulimic behaviors and the food addiction was so bad that I finally got to a place where I was like, okay, if you do not get your shit together, because in that time I was kind of in the health and wellness space. Like here I was preaching, health and wellness and like, make healthy decisions.
Yeah.
And I was not healthy at all.
Yeah.
At
Been there.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I basically called myself out and was like, Meg, like you're kind of a fraud. Like here
Mm.
you are preaching health and wellness and you are so far from healthy. But I was so sick in the addiction, and I would listen to conventional wisdom and all of the Fitspo chicks that preach everything in moderation and balance this. And if it fits your macros,
Yeah.
and you should be able to have whatever it is that you want to eat and get results. And I listened to all of that. And I just lived in this sick cycle for so many years. And like, I never even knew really food addiction was a thing. Like I
Right.
knew that like I had issues and I was like addicted, but like
Right.
even in the DSM, I'm sure you're familiar with the DSM, food addiction is not even in there, right? And we have registered dietitians and certified nutritionists saying food addiction is a thing. You just need to work on your relationship with food. Like I've gotten
Yeah.
into conversations
Yeah.
about this with, certain individuals. But anyways, I'm going
And sorry to interrupt, but what made you feel like a fraud at the time? So when you say you had a very poor relationship, so were you kind of like very fit looking on the outside, but then on the inside, do you mean like you had a very unhealthy relationship with like binging and then restricting kind of thing?
Yeah. So basically, you brought up a great topic because I do want to address that food addiction comes in all different shapes and sizes.
Mhm.
You do not have to be morbidly obese or overweight to be a full-blown food addict. And so if you looked at me, you would see a fit girl who is like, super fit and active and actually have no idea that I'm binging and purging at home and eating my entire kitchen and cookies and cakes and all of the cupboards, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I felt like a fraud because here I was saying, live this healthy lifestyle. And even though I look fit and
Mhm.
healthy, I
Mhm.
was so far from it because I was a slave. I was a slave to the gym and I was a slave to food.
Yeah.
So I remember just being like, if I ever find a way to overcome this addiction, I'm going to make it my mission to help others do the same. And I always felt like God had a much greater plan for me.
Mhm.
But I just knew that I was not living my best life or could ever do that if I never overcame this addiction. It was like the addiction is like this wall and I'm just like trying to get through it and I'm falling flat on my face every time.
Yeah.
So once I was able to kind of heal and restore and move on with my life with the food addiction, I was like, I got to help others do the same. So that's what I do now.
Wow. That's so cool. And that was so well explained, that kind of like, I see this life over here, but there's, and whatever that wall is for people. And sometimes it's codependency or staying stuck in, dating the same kind of problematic person over and over again, where they know deep down, call it intuition, call it higher power, call it whatever you want, but there's like this voice screaming, hey, there's a better way. But then it's like I used to have a counselor that used to say we fight for the right to stay sick, and we
Mhm.
really hold on to these things knowing that they're killing us, but then
Right.
we don't kind of,
Do
yeah,
anything.
yeah, or
Yeah.
make that jump because
Yeah.
it's so
You
terrifying.
you gave me chills when you just said like, there's something more, like that intuition, that voice,
Yeah.
right? And I think so many and like, you work with people who deal with, or not, unhealthy relationships and all of that. And it's like
Mhm.
some of these people, they don't know any other way. Just like somebody who struggles with food addiction, they don't know that there's a better life out there because that's what they know. That's all they know.
Yeah.
But if you can just listen to that little voice inside of you that is saying there is so much more to life,
Yeah.
don't ignore that voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And kind of circling back to when you were 9, what were do you see a correlation between, because I've watched all types of like amazing documentaries now, and when it deals with like autism or, behavioral issues in children, and then they switch their diets, and I'm like, holy shit, like it freaks me out to the point where I'm like,
Yeah.
what are we feeding our children right now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Yes.
do you think that there's a
So
kind of correlation
a
between?
correlation, 100%. And it's like any kind of dysfunction within the body, right? Like whether it's physical or mental health. If you're anxious, depressed, dealing with bipolar, manic depression, that is like you have to realize that those are signs and symptoms inside of your body screaming for help. It's saying, fix me. It does not mean that you are broken. It's saying there is something going on and we need to heal. And that's why I'm like super big into, root cause healing, right? And the power. Now, I'm not saying food can heal everything, but a lot of gut dysfunction, things that are going on in the gut, if we can kind of heal that and work on that. Also, we're talking about, environmental illness or just buildup of toxins within the body. Like those are all contributing factors to poor mental health.
Yeah.
And this is me coming from somebody who was drugged for 17 years and my diet is amazing now. I take absolutely no medications. I am alive and vibrant. Do I have days where I still struggle because life gets hard sometimes? Yeah, of course. But we're
Yeah.
all human beings and that's very normal.
Yeah.
Um, that's why I'm so huge with like food has the ability to hurt us or heal us, right? And this is why I have a problem with people saying, oh, just eat everything in moderation. Okay, well, what if you've got stuff going on inside of your body right now and dysfunction and you're continuing to aggravate it, right? And I always like to focus on, is this hurting me or is this healing me? Is this going to bring me peace or joy, or is this going to cause more aggravation? And like I always go, like, how many people want to lose weight and have like their dream body, right? Like we all do. Let's be real. But if we're gonna that focus is very, very fleeting. If that's all you're doing it for, like
Yeah.
it's not gonna
Yeah.
momentum's not gonna last.
Yeah.
So I always like to say, how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
Right? Like nothing tastes better than feeling good.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true. And now, did you grow up in a home where weight was maybe an issue? Or, like, for example, I grew up in a very British home where my parents didn't struggle with their weight. My mother, God bless her, had an overactive thyroid. So everything she ate just like conveniently turned to sawdust. And she was like
Yeah.
5'11" and super skinny. So but she's from Scotland and my dad's from England. So everything was like bread, beans and toast, fish sticks, whatever. So we grew up eating that. And my brother is a professional athlete. So he was training so much that he could use more of the carbs or whatever it was. His body was so muscular. And then there was me, just like El Depresso at home, just feeling and just gaining and gaining and starting to gain and gain and gain weight. So do you feel like kind of like chicken or the egg came first? Like, do you feel like there was a weight issue that turned into an addiction, or kind of like the way that you were raised around food?
Yeah, such a great question. So when I was medicated,
Mm,
I blew up like a balloon.
mm,
I started to become that, well, one, I think the meds contributed to it, but also the meds also contributed to me having this undying appetite. So obviously I'm eating way more and of course I'm going to gain weight. So then I became the chubby kid
yeah.
and I was always friends with everybody. I never had a problem with making friends and I was kind of like, you know, yeah, I was always super bubbly, but I was also that girl at home that was super depressive because I of assholes at school that were making fat girl jokes,
Yeah.
and that stuck with me for
Yeah.
a lifetime. And
Yeah.
even till this day, like sometimes, like, because I have been all sizes, I have been skinny, I have been fat, I
Mhm.
have been too muscular, I've been too skinny, like I've been all of the things.
Yeah.
And even at my fittest and my leanest, there are like in my head sometimes I'm still that fat girl,
Yep.
like that chubby girl.
Yeah.
And so that's been something that I've had to work on my entire life, and even till this day I still work on it. I'm definitely like so much better, but I think many of us who are into fitness can all say we have struggled with some sort of body dysmorphia, you know. um but I definitely think that contributed. Also, I was in and out of therapists as a kid. So, like, I even got comments from a therapist saying, you need to lose weight, or a doctor, you need to lose weight. And, like, I even till this day, like, I'm like, I look back and I'm like, no shit, why I was so messed up with like
Whoa.
food and like weight, or like,
Yeah.
you need to be more active. And I remember too, like my mother, like she was super into counting like calories and like
Yeah.
eating like making sure like she's getting enough calories in. So I don't think that was really played into much part. I think it was more of just like being the fat girl. And I wasn't even like that bad. I was more of just like chubby,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Little
um
thicker. Little thicker.
Thicker,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, I think it definitely, and I will say this, and I'm sure you see it yourself in your own practice, is a lot of the issues that we struggle with today, they stem back from childhood.
100%. 100%. So relatable, everything that you just said. I remember years of my life going in my closet and I'm like, oh, I'm finally a size small and everything is small. And then the next year being like, I cannot fit into one thing. And it wasn't going from small to medium. It was going from small to large and then back to small and then up and down and up and down. And there wasn't any consistency because you nailed it. It was all about how do I look on the outside? Right.
Yeah.
Let's try to, I'm 5'7", I'm built like my dad. I've never been this little petite thing, but just like you said, kind of going back to high school, I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, certain comments that you get. And it's like, I just either want to like shrink my body frame or I always wanted to be short my whole life. Like, and then every short girl wants to be tall, and it's like
Right.
curly hair and I
Here's
want
all you
straight
can't
hair.
have. Yeah.
Exactly. And it just all pulls away from this authentic sense of self and
Yeah.
this comfort with just, yeah.
I think I want to elaborate on what you said because I think you can probably agree with this for like and so many people like how often do we try and find our self-worth and validate ourselves like well if I'm this size or I look this certain way like no like we don't find our we should not be seeking our self-worth or any sort of validation from our outside appearance right like that's so much deeper but we always feel the need whether it's like okay I gotta be a certain size or I gotta be producing this amount of money or like you're a piece of shit if you don't look this way or make this much money you know what I'm
Yep.
saying like
Yep.
no like that's all surface level stuff and it's like we should be finding validation through who we are as human beings.
Mhm. Yeah. And how we help others, our sense of
Yeah.
community and other interests and hobbies. And for sure. And one of the most problematic things too about, identifying as a female is really these outside pressures. And what you said earlier about like being too muscular or, says who? Says who?
Right.
And it always
Right.
goes back to and why I love interviewing different people because you've mentioned a few times now, like, a dietitian or seeing someone like if if moderation works for some, like if eating, say you go to an eating disorder psychologist, after 10 years of anorexia, there a lot of them are going to suggest, start practicing eating a small amount of dessert after each meal and get great. If that works for you, I'm all for do whatever works for you. But, in light of this specific podcast, and I'm sure the $1 million question that everybody is waiting for me to ask, is really what was the magic bullet for you? That because you often talk about peace in your reels or in your Instagram content is I finally feel peaceful around food.
Yeah.
And that's the kicker, So what does your kind of day-to-day, I won't even call it, I mean, I'll call it a diet for easy sake, but your lifestyle look like?
Yeah. I'm laughing just because my lifestyle is so boring.
Yeah.
It's so boring. I am a meat, I'm a meat based.
Yeah.
So, right now I'm on a strict carnivore diet, because my life is so much more peaceful, right? And so when I say more peaceful, it's like when you struggle with any kind of food addiction, right? It takes so much energy from you when you have to feel like you have to fight these battles or like all of this noise going inside of your brain. So I always say boring is so much better. The
Yeah.
brain lights up if you struggle with food addiction. Any kind of highly palatable foods, sweet, salty, savory, it lights up that addictive brain.
Mm.
Now, I have seen in my practice, certain things that trigger you may not trigger somebody else, right? So it's very individualized with everybody. But like for me personally, when I keep it boring, bland, simple, my life is so much more peaceful in the sense of I don't have these wars going on side of my head. I don't have these battles. It's like I eat to nourish my body and I get on with my day and I'm not so like food focused and thinking about, oh, what's the next thing I'm going to eat? Like it's about what makes me feel my best
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
right? That's all that matters to me. And if I start to like, and there'll be periods of my life too, like I'm almost into this 5 years of my food sobriety journey. And there has definitely been times where I'll eat higher
Right.
carbs that I would eat, like low glycemic carbs. But
Right.
even then, like I just know myself so well. I have experimented with so many different things that like the lower carb for me, like almost zero carb, I
Mm.
just do best. And this is where I'm like, it's so individualized with everybody. And like you said, like find what works for you, right? Like we don't need to be so dogmatic and be like, oh my God, they're doing this. Like, no, like she's wrong, she's right. Like focus on you.
Yeah.
What's working for you?
Yeah.
Uh, and if something's not working for you, I encourage you to figure out what does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been speaking about this a lot. We're in this society that people have lost the ability to discuss or debate
Mhm.
without it turning into this ego-filled argument, essentially. And it's like,
Yeah.
why? Like, I don't drink alcohol or do any mind altering drug or
A substance.
substance, right? Nobody bats an eye. They're like, congratulations, you're amazing. I can't believe it, right? But then, because I've done sugar free many times, felt amazing. We're not going to get into why I pick up the sugar again. That's a whole other podcast episode.
We can talk
But
about it later.
right? Yeah, talk about a one-on-one. But when I've done that, felt my best, looked my best, people, the comments that I get, like, oh, Jess is on another diet again, or like, why, just all kinds of, and I used to get so offended by it. And now ultimately I look at it like as projection, right? I mean, we're all really struggling. So if somebody's happy inside, they're not bothered by what I'm, why would you be bothered? Unless I'm harming you, why would whatever I'm doing be upsetting you?
Because they know
So
that they need to step up their game because they're not doing what they should be.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's this internal battle of, and the same thing goes with codependency, or attachment trauma. So if you have a super anxious person, w one of the worst things that they could do to trigger their, complex trauma is to date someone who's either not interested in a relationship, just wants like casual sex,
Hmm.
or is just kind of like you're really chasing for their attention. It's one
Yeah.
of the most triggering things you can do.
Can
Yeah.
I ask you something real
Mhm.
quick?
Sure.
Um, like I know what it is, but I would love to hear your definition of codependency. Like, can you
Mm.
give
Mhm.
define that for me?
Yeah, sure. So, in the most simple of terms, codependent behavior, I mean, I won't get into where it stems from necessarily, but codependent behavior is when I'm caring a lot more about what you think than what I think.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
so it's this. So the term actually was coined by an author named Melody Beattie back in the 70s and 80s, where it was used in a very sexist way to describe the behavior of women who were married to alcoholic men. So what was happening was they were, again, very old school sexist thinking. They were home, either taking care of the family, doing the cooking, cleaning, and then husband was going out drinking. And all of a sudden, they would start to exude behaviors like, okay, if I only try harder, if I only convince them to stop. And then again, staying on this idea of losing our peace, they would lose their peace, they would lose their sanity in trying to get the person to
Their
stop.
attention.
Yeah, or to
Okay.
stop using drugs or alcohol. And then she rewrote her book, thank God, about 20 years later. And the term, and still, like you said, not a recognized term per se, like when it comes to the DSM or even in a lot of therapy clinics, but more and more now we're starting to see individuals who were raised either by alcoholics, by narcissists, by very emotionally stunted parents. They learn to take on the role as caretakers as children. So as
Okay.
a child, instead of just being like, where's my snack and where's my coloring book, and just you're supposed to be a little mini narcissist when you're a child. You're into whatever's in front of you. You feel
Yeah.
safe. Your primary caregivers are there if you need something. But children who grow up in homes where the parents are not mature enough to raise them, they take on the role of adult. So either they're becoming like, mommy or daddy's best friend. You hear that a lot, like my kid's my best friend. I'm like,
So if you're in a narcissistic relationship, you
yes,
can become codependent.
100%. Yeah. So normally only, well, I shouldn't say only, mostly codependents who have lower levels of self-esteem, almost a non-existent sense of self-identity, could be like victimized in a lot of areas of their life, will be attracted to somebody with narcissistic qualities because either A, they recognize that from a parent and they've really had to hustle for love growing up, so when they
Got
see that, so it could be like, out of 100 people, 99 of these potential suitors are like, wow, you're great. And I really want to start a romantic relationship with you. They'll find the 100th one that's not really paying much attention to them. And
got
they're like you. And like it triggers something. And it's like, let me now prove my worth.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
In the simplest of forms.
Yeah.
It's
That was
really,
deep. I could
yeah.
pick your brain on this for
Sure.
hours.
Sure. No problem. Yeah, no problem. It's
Oh,
really,
that's good.
and it's so interesting and we were speaking about this before, off air, that codependency bleeds into so many areas of your life because with that wounded sense of self, as a child, it doesn't really matter what it is you're using to soothe yourself. It's usually going to be something. So you can struggle with codependency in your relationships, with your relationship to food,
Mm,
finances. Some people have
yeah.
a very difficult time just with self-care or taking care of themselves or feeling like they deserve anything.
Love or
Yeah,
worthiness. Yeah.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so really it is a hyper focus on something or someone outside of yourself to the
Yeah.
point where it can like breed obsession.
So it's basically, is it because they're not willing to like work on their insides and they're trying to seek validation in other people?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. It can be a lot of different things. So some people have um a very strong caretaking role that comes on. So sometimes you see really successful people dating people who are really and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, but not at their level, right? So they'll date someone who they know has certain issues and they're like, "Oh, I'll cook for them. I'll help them job hunt. I'll go out of my way. I'll give them money until they have their own money." So a lot of this enabling behavior kicks
Okay.
in. But the tricky thing about codependency and people pleasing is that there's a very, very strong motive behind it. And when a codependent or a people pleaser doesn't get what they want, they go from very, very sweet to going for the jugular. And
Oh
that's
my
that's what's
God.
tricky about, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
so
it's
interesting.
yeah, so
You should
all of
write a
it.
book.
Oh, I have been told that before. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I
Yeah.
will. Yeah. I feel like I interview other people, but then when
Yeah.
people ask me questions, I'm like,
Sorry,
"Oh, this
I'm
is
grilling
fun."
you.
And it's easier to answer them than when you're just alone, like, what do I talk about, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, we'll do a whole second episode on you can ask me questions about
Love
codependent.
it. When I do my podcast, I'll interview
There you go.
you.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, so kind of circling back to the because oftentimes people are saying like, I've tried this diet, or I want to lose 20 pounds in a month, or and and I tell people you can. Sure. If
Right.
you can do anything.
You can do anything you
You can
set
do
your mind to.
anything you want. You can do the cabbage soup diet for 30 days and you will drop all kinds of weight, but then
You'll
again,
also hate your life.
hate your life, feel miserable, but then what happens after, right? It's almost
Right.
like it's the same thing as like a distorted relationship with money, right? Like you can go and snowball your debt down, but if you don't change your inherent relationship
Yeah.
with money, you're just going to put 10,000 back on the credit card. So,
Correct.
so basically, just for people listening, so when you say 5 years, did you say food sober? Food
Yeah. I
sobriety?
haven't, I've been sober alcohol too for like 14.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
I
Cool.
think it's, I mean, well, gee, I can't do the math. I think I stopped drinking in 2014 or 15. So I don't know.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
coming up. That's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what does food sober mean for you?
Yeah. So I don't touch my drug foods. So like foods that would send me into a full-blown binge or any kind of, addictive behavior, I do not touch them. So like for me, like I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat refined sugar. The potato chips, like any, if it comes in like a box
Yeah.
or a package, I typically would need it. Candy, cookies, cakes, ice cream, all of that. Like those are like no-goes. We do not touch that.
So for
That's like,
five years.
yeah, like that's like full-blown heroin for me. Like, and that's why I always compare it to this, right? So like have I had ketogenic ice cream and keto treats? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
However, I have to tread very, very lightly with those. I don't love them. They definitely make my life a lot more noisy. And I
Mm,
just I don't I'm not gonna say I'll never have those ever again in my life, but like right now, like I did, I allowed myself keto treats during the holidays, but I noticed like it just I eat more than I'm supposed to.
yeah.
I get a little bingy with them.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not, going on full blown benders with them, I'm like, I don't like it feels like it's starting to get a little too much control over me, which once I start feeling that, I don't like it. That's like my like red flag to like, these are probably not for you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like cookies, cakes, and ice creams, like those were like my heroin, right?
Yeah.
And people will say, you're never gonna eat those ever again. And I like to say this. Okay, an alcoholic who is sober for, however long, what's gonna happen when they decide to have one sip of beer? Okay. Let's be real. It's not going to be one sip of beer. It's going to be one beer, two beer, three beer. And before you know, they're probably going to go through a 30 rack. Right. So like for me, if I have a cookie or a cake or a bite of a cake, it's not just going to be one cookie. It's going to be a package of cookies. It's going to turn into probably eating the whole pantry. And then I'm going to be sick to my stomach. I'm probably going to go purge. It's going to be not good. So
Yeah.
it's like, because I have proven to myself basically my entire life that
Yeah.
I have no control over those foods,
Yeah.
I have proven to myself that. So
Yeah.
now that I have set myself free, I have gone into such a good place that I never, ever, ever, ever want to go backwards. Like
Yeah.
in my early stages of food sobriety, when someone was like, yeah, well, you're going to be abstaining from these for the rest of your life. I literally got sick to my stomach and like, what are you kidding me? Like I couldn't
Yeah.
even imagine my life without them, but
Yeah.
I focused on one meal at a time, one day at a time. And as you build that momentum, you start to get better and better, healthier, your mind starts working better. And it's like you end up creating this life that you only used to dream about. Now you have it and it's here. Why
Yeah.
would I ever throw it away for some drug foods and a short-term high? Like it's
Yeah.
not happening. And I
Wow.
don't want them. Like I never thought that I could sit because my daughter eats carbs. She's a moderator. She can moderate.
Mhm.
I cannot.
Mhm.
But I can literally sit, in the car with her and she's eating a donut and I'm not compelled. Like I don't even want it. It's
Yeah.
not like I have to fight wicked hard to be like, oh no, like I can't have that. Like I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And it's so interesting as you were sharing kind of your journey, just all the things I've read or different people that I've spoken to. And I remember when I started to when I had quit smoking when I was about 27. And I think besides when I was about 10, I think like right before or around puberty, I gained the most weight I had. And then again when I had quit smoking. And that's fine, right? Like I would rather gain weight than be a smoker. So I kind of gave myself permission, but a lot of
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah.
There was a photo taken at a wedding. And you know when you have those aha moments, and I'm like, oh shit, like you've taken this too far now. You're done with the smoking. Let's kind of
Yeah.
get back. But
Turn it
anyway,
around.
yeah, yeah. But I remember speaking to so many people and wanting to find this solution. And I remember telling people that I think what I'm eating is affecting my mental health. And so many people, they literally, and it wasn't even a judgment. They looked at me like I had three heads and they were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I think I'm getting hungover from the food. And I'm not talking even how puffy I felt. Like obviously
Blood sugar
nobody
dysregulation at its finest.
terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
And I would wake up the next
Which
morning.
sorry, I have to
Okay.
interrupt you because I
Okay.
literally just had this conversation with a client this morning.
Yeah.
So we've been working on improving her metabolic health, right?
Yeah.
Stabilizing that blood sugar and insulin. Okay. And she said, she goes, you know what's crazy is she goes, now that I'm restoring my metabolic health and like improving my blood sugar, she's like, my mental health is so much better. So
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
But
okay.
I'm like shaking my head to everything you're saying because
Yeah.
I'm like, you're so right. And that's why, like, I'm just like, I know what it's like to feel like death. You
Yeah.
know what it's like to feel like death.
Yep.
And it's like, once you start to find what works, and it's like, and you feel good, and you see people doing things to their body, whether you're abusing your body with drugs, alcohol, tobacco, food,
Yeah.
and you just want to be like, just stop. Like, life is so much better without these
Yeah.
drugs,
Yeah.
whatever the substance may be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, insulin resistance and just the power of insulin in the next 20 years, I think is just going to, it's just going to take over and people are just going to be like, what? That's because of, right? Like you're
Yeah.
like dementia now, Alzheimer's, all of this
Mhm.
inflammation in the brain. And you're like, is this from what we're eating?
Yeah, by 2050, I don't know if it was 2030 or 2050. I just got done another food addiction course a couple months ago, and they said if we keep going like at this trend, 1 in 3 people by that time is going to be are going to be type 2 diabetic,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And diabetes is affecting more people now than like smoking and these different issues, right? The modern day diet
Yeah.
is insane. There's this saying in recovery that we have that says stopping is the easy part, staying stopped is the difficult
Mhm.
part. And when
Yeah.
I kept thinking like, wow, for 5 years. So I can go on like I'm stubborn, I'm relentless. When I stick to something, I can really do it. I can have these great kind of chunks of time. So let's say, 6 months, say, for example, I'm away from the sugar. I eat very similar to you. So, like eggs, red meat, healthy fats, avocado, sea salt, oil, whatever it is. And I feel satiated. I'm not thinking about food. My mental health isn't going up and down. And then it'll be like a Friday night, let's say. And we're talking like a long period, and I have proof that I feel really good. My clothes are fitting well, everything's going well. And then a Friday night will come and say, I'm overtired. The work week has been super busy. And this little voice comes in and it says, just tonight. Let's go to the
Yeah.
grocery store. And I know what I'm doing now. I literally,
Mhm.
it's like an out of body experience. I'm watching myself do it and I will go to the grocery store and the power of the mind and I will literally and I don't do this with drug I don't go to the bar on Friday night and say just gonna have a couple of Jack and Cokes just tonight and then
Right.
tomorrow
I'll be good
and I'll be
tomorrow.
good, which I do
Yeah.
see a lot of people do in recovery rooms and thank God I see that because it convinces me and it makes me remember like that will be you if you
Where you
open that
came
door.
from.
But the
Mhm.
food door, and I speak for myself and I think so many others, is that people swing that food door open again. And I have one girlfriend, and I know she's going to be listening to this. I have one girlfriend who she trains super hard all week. I'm talking like runs at lunch, eats like super well. And then Friday, Saturday night, she swings the door open, but then she
Mhm.
closes it on Sunday and then continues. And her weight stayed the same. She's fit, she's peaceful around it. And I'm like, wow. But I know
Like, how do
now
you do
how do you
that?
do that? But she does it.
Yeah.
I want that to be me. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I open it and then I'm like, good for you. You had what you wanted. You ate whatever, a pasta, a brownie. And again, there's nothing wrong with pasta or brownies, right? This has never been a topic of like what's good or bad, but
Mhm.
it's bad for me because then I wake up Sunday and I'm like, okay, well, let's just have a couple of pancakes before I close the door again. Let's have
Right.
whatever. And then
Like,
Monday,
let's get it in.
right?
Yeah.
And then this idea. So I've really gone through waves my whole life of because I do I can vary from either I've been in this very disordered eating place where it was like high restriction,
Mm.
and then going to solid binging. Definitely now I'm in a better place than ever. The majority of the time I eat well, I train well, but then there's these pockets of time where I'm like, oh, you need to be very careful because the sugar hijacks you in a way, and I think for some worse than others, to the point where
Right,
I'm like, oh no, you've been doing this for 3 weeks now, and now
right.
you feel terrible,
Yeah,
like
yeah. And it's
yucky.
very common too, and I see this a lot in my practice is one addiction kind of goes can go into another. So like
Mhm.
I deal with a lot of people who have struggled with alcoholism and they have become sober, but during their sobriety they went to sugar
Yep.
and carbs, and now that has kind of been their new substance. So, and I know you can relate, it's like when it comes to addiction, whatever the substance is, there's so many different layers that need to be worked on. And like also having an awareness of, okay, am I taking one addiction and setting myself free, but going into another, you
Yep.
know? And I think that you have got to continue to look at yourself as your biggest experiment and have such awareness, like, and catch yourself, like, look at your behaviors, look at your patterns, know your danger zones, like, oh, I've been doing this for a while, like, and recognizing too that voice of sabotage, right? And I always like to say to my clients, we refer to the voice of sabotage as ed. Typically ed
It's
stands for,
Ed.
yeah, so
Okay.
ed stands for eating disorder.
Right.
Food addiction
Yeah.
is disordered eating, right? So I really try to teach my clients to be able to identify the voice, okay? Like who's talking here? Who's in control? Addiction, as you know, probably, I'm sure you can relate. It's like dealing with two different people some days, right? It's like, okay, is this me talking or is
Yep.
this the voice of sabotage? And that's why I always like to say to my clients, okay, like you need to be able to slow down, pump the brakes. And when you're in a situation and you've been great Monday through Friday and the weekends come and this little voice creeps in and it's like, oh yeah, that pizza's looking really good, just go for a bite.
Yep.
You need to be able to be like, okay, who's talking right now? Like, is this me or is this the voice of sabotage?
Yeah.
Because you need to also be able to feed the lies with the truth. So when
Oof.
and if we're talking food addiction, if you're eating pizza, you know very well that that one slice of pizza is not going to be one slice of pizza. It's
Mm.
going to be probably the whole pizza, and then God knows what else you're going to be eating, right? So, like, feeding the lie with the truth would be, I'm not having just one slice of pizza because I've proven to myself that that one piece is never one piece, right? And it's going to send me into a binge.
Yep.
So, same thing with alcoholism, right? Like, you can never, ever, ever get complacent. And that's I think what the difference between somebody who stays successful with their sobriety
Mhm.
versus somebody that doesn't, they are constantly practicing the tools and the strategies that keep them sober,
Yep.
right? Especially too, like the longer you're sober, right? You still can't get complacent because it doesn't matter how long sober you are for, like,
Mm.
the second you start to like slip and forget, like you're not identified by your addiction, whatever your addiction may be,
Right.
but you also can't remember where you can't forget where you came from.
Right. Yeah. So I had to write that one down. Feed the lies with the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's really, you know, the difference between myself at 17 years sober versus someone else that I maybe was in rehab with that's been opening and closing that door for 17 years. Those are two different trajectories. And again,
Right.
it's 0% coming from a place of judgment. It's how am I going to be? I had to pick a lane. I can't try
Mhm.
to moderate and be successful in life or get educated or get a job or
Correct.
travel or whatever. It had to be one or the other. It's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And you cannot compare your journey to anybody else's journey. So it's like an addict wants to believe that they can be like everybody else and moderate. They want to be
Yeah.
like their friends that can be have one beer on a Friday night or have a couple slices of pizza on a Friday night. Like they
Yeah.
want to be that, but they've proven to themselves over again that they cannot.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you're a piece of shit or like a loser. It's just like
Mhm.
you're wired differently,
Yep.
right? And you've proven to yourself time and again that you are. And it's coming. You have to, in order to get better, in order to set yourself free from addiction, two things have to happen. You have to 100% accept
Mm.
that you're an addict,
Yeah.
and that, but I don't like saying you're not, you never define yourself of
Mhm.
that addiction. It's
Mhm.
just you have an addictive personality with that. And then two, you need to you need to if you haven't been able to get well on your own, you need help. You
Yeah.
need to get help,
Yeah.
whether it's a group therapy, a therapist, a one-on-one coach. Because let me tell you, I am somebody who always felt like I could do everything on my own. I don't need anybody. I don't need anyone's help. Like, I got this.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with having a strong mind, but
Yeah.
sometimes we need help. And
Yeah.
I could not get over my food addiction on my own. Like, I would still be sick if I did not get the help that I needed. So don't, and like, like there's a lot of shame with addiction.
My God.
So being okay and kind of surrendering and be like, yeah, I need help. Give me all of the help,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
acceptance and getting the help you need
Yeah.
is the first steps to getting better.
Yeah, it's true. And I think too, probably a lot of community support goes with food addiction just as much as it does with alcoholism, right? Like there would be over 100 people that I could call if on a Friday night, all of a sudden something tragic happened and I was like, I'm going to drink tonight, right?
Yeah.
There'd be so many people I would call, hopefully
Yeah.
before that decision's made. But when I'm going to get like a box of pasta or ice cream, I don't call anybody.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
well,
give
and with my
money.
clients too, like my clients have full access to me, right? Like I use a walkie-talkie app. Like I train them to know like what their danger zones are. And if they are having a weak moment, I want you to send me a walkie-talkie like, hey, I'm like not doing good right now. Like I'm not in a good mental space. And sometimes just like letting someone know, just like, hey, I'm not doing okay. Sometimes that's all we need.
Yep. Yep. I have something very similar with clients that I work with attachment issues or codependency, especially when they've worked so hard to move away from toxic relationships or to finally stop going back to that ex that they know is hurting them so much. If they have one of those weaker moments, they feel like they're going to do that. Shoot me a text, send me an email talking about it before you swing open
Yeah.
that door, and it's very similar too. So God bless people like you, and just kind of shining more light on this addiction because again, it's really you hear, especially with social media, you can go on one account and say somebody saying, never eating sugar again is disordered eating, right? Then you
Yeah.
see another account. There's this guy I follow. I love him. He's this British huge muscle guy. He's just blowing up. He has 2.5 million followers now.
Easy. Send them
I'm
to me later.
I will. Yeah, I will. I'm gonna find his name. Same thing. I don't know if he's strict carnivore, but it's very similar diet, like just like tons of eggs, meat, and he talks all about insulin. But he's so funny in the way. And then I love reading the comments on his post because some people say like, you're insane to eat like that. But it's really, I mean, there's so many different arguments if you want to go back in time, right? What were we eating?
Ancestral, right?
What
It's
were
like, let's be real.
There was
Yeah.
no grocery stores, there was no high fructose corn syrup, there was fish, there was game, there was meat, there was berries. So yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's like where did everyone's brains go?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To this point where I think it's one of the most justified, like even cigarette smokers, you can't come up with any. I've never heard one cigarette smoker be able to debate with me and tell me the benefits of smoking cigarettes
Correct.
or justifying it or drug use or alcoholism. But when it comes to food, I think we have been a little bit brainwashed to, this very compelling argument where it's like, we have to loosen up on what's life without a bit of sugar. And I was thinking about that when you were talking, and there's the lie is I'm gonna feel happiness from what I'm about to eat. And then
For 5 minutes.
if the first
Yeah.
few bites, I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my life. And then I eat too much, then I feel sick, then I blah, 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 blah. And the whole cycle starts again.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yes, yes. Wow. I could literally talk for the next 3 hours with you.
Yeah, me too.
I know you have to run. We will do another episode. I'd love to have you back on. I just want to be able to plug because I'm sure a lot of listeners have more questions for you or want to work with you. So your Instagram handle is Meghann Alice. That's Meghann, Alice.
Do the dot, Alice.
Meghann.Alice. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. I'll plug all the show notes too at the bottom of this podcast episode. And your website is brain, body, and beyond LLC.com. Is that correct? Awesome. Okay. So for anybody who wants, are you taking new clients right now? Is there a
Yes.
wait list? You are. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, great. So thank you so much for this has just been amazing. I'm all pumped up now and I want to talk
Yeah,
more.
this was such a good chat. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. My pleasure. And just yeah, thanks again. And if anybody has any questions, they'll contact you either through Instagram or your website. And until the next episode.
Awesome. Have a great day. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for listening and supporting Living Out Loud. Be sure to tune in next week for another fun, juicy episode.